Today we're going to be highlighting how to install your RaceChip on a 2015 to current GLC 300 Mercedes-Benz. Before installing the RaceChip, please wait until your engine is cool enough to work on. Put your parking brake or emergency brake on. If your vehicle is equipped with an alarm system, please disable it. Pop the hood, roll up the windows, close the doors, and press the lock button on your key fob and move that key fob 30 feet away. You're going to wait about 10 minutes after for all the electricity to clear from underneath the hood. Now we're going to remove the black engine cover. To do so, you're just going to grab from either corner and pull directly up. Now we're going to remove the cover covering the battery. To do so, we're going to first twist these two tabs 90 degrees. And pull away. After removing the plastic battery cover, we're going to go ahead and remove the in-cabin air filter. To do so, you're actually going to start on the left-hand side, push the tab in, pull away, lift up, and remove, and you have your battery. With the in-cabin air filter removed, we're now going to take a 10mm socket. Go ahead and loosen the negative side terminal on the battery here. And be careful when removing. Set that on the side. After removing the negative terminal on the battery, we're now going to remove the fresh air inlet pipe. To do so, we're going to begin over here on the right hand side. Simply push down and pick up, and that will move off. Next, there's going to be a little locking tab right here. We're going to just spin it 45 degrees, so 1/4 of a turn, and then it will pull out. Just like that. Set that aside. And finally, we're going to move it right here. To do so, just simply push down right here, and then there's one more on the passenger side, and pull back. Now it's removed. Next on the list, we're going to move over to the driver's side of the motor. Just before the water to air intercooler, there'll be a boost pressure sensor. We need to remove that. To remove the boost pressure sensor, we're going to take a flat head, be very gentle, go until you hear the snap, just like that. Press down on the tab and pull back. Now we're going to remove the IAT plug. It's going to be just on the other side of the intercooler from the turbo boost pressure sensor. Same thing, pull until you hear the snap, and press down and pull away. Now we're going to remove the ECU or ECM to remove the intercooler. To remove, push the black tab down and lift the gray tab up until it snaps, and remove. Same thing with the other one, push the gray tab down and pull back and remove. Now there'll be two silver locking tabs. All you need to do is just pull away until they unsnap. To continue to remove the intercooler, now we're going to remove the two cables for the ECM away from the intercooler. Simply pull up and away, and that will be removed. Now we're going to reach these small T10 Torx down on the side of the intercooler just next to the throttle body. Now we're moving up to the front of the intercooler, right underneath, still on the driver's side. Remove this Torx on the bottom. And the third and final Torx screw holding the intercooler on is going to be right here. After removing the Torx screws holding the intercooler in, we're now going to remove the bracket holding the throttle body onto the intercooler. It's going to be a T25 Torx. Now we're just going to pull these two tabs out and lift straight up to move the vacuum line away from the intercooler. After removing the Torx on the intercooler, you're now going to take a 7mm socket and go ahead and loosen the two hose clamps. Next up is to remove the turbo inlet or turbocharged pipe. To do so, we're going to remove the one Torx, same Torx 10 that we've been using, to remove the one bolt. Gently work back and forth until it pops out. Last thing before we remove the intercooler is to remove the vacuum line. To do so, first we need to remove the cap. Make sure to do this when the engine is cool and not hot. Last thing to do before we do remove the line is make sure you have an empty water bottle and some paper towels or rags left over. There might be some extra coolant that spills out. So to remove the hose clamp here, take a small flathead, you're going to stick it in there and pop. It'll actually click into place, and then just gently pull straight back. Make sure you have your water bottle ready and stick it on there just in case anything spills out. Now, we're not going to completely remove the intercooler. Instead, we're going to actually be moving it to the side. So you need to make sure that you don't damage any of the hoses or clamps that are still attached to the intercooler. You're just going to gently pull back away from the vehicle with the intercooler, away from the throttle body. Find a good position for it to sit, just like that. Also, your reservoir might overfill here as the water's running out, so keep an eye on that. Make sure you have your rags handy just in case you need them. Now to remove the intercooler bracket, we first need to remove this sensor. Go ahead and pop the gray tab up, pull away. Now remove the 4 Torx holding the throttle body on. And we're going to unplug the throttle body sensor. To get the intercooler bracket out to reach the manifold absolute pressure sensor, you need to take the black plastic bezel that mounts the ECU in place. There'll be 2 metal snaps. I use a pick with a 90 degrees. Go towards the inside of the bezel and pop, and then just simply pull up and move away. Now that the throttle body has been removed, the last and final step to reach the sensors is to remove the intercooler mounting bracket, which will be 5 more Torx screws. The top 4 will all be the Torx 10 we've been using, which are here, 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 and one underneath the wire here. The last and final one will actually be a Torx 12, which will be down here at the very bottom, underneath where the ECU was mounted. Now you've removed the 5 Torx screws holding the intercooler mounting bracket on. The last thing to do is simply get a flathead or a body removal tool, pop the plastic sensor, and remove the bracket. To remove the intake manifold pressure sensor, we're going to go ahead and pull back on the small white tab and press down and pull back. If you're having trouble, you can also use a small flathead screwdriver like so. Now that we've finished disassembling the vehicle, we're going to go ahead and install the RaceChip and begin reassembling the components. To begin, we're going to take the B connection for the intake manifold pressure sensor, begin with our male end, and go ahead and insert it right into the sensor you just removed. The gray tab will face the outside of the car. Push in and then press the gray tab until it snaps. Then take the male end of that same connection with our female end on our wiring harness. Now this time it's very important. The snap goes on the opposite side of the little mounting hardware on the bottom. So the gray top will be on the opposite side. Push it until it snaps, press it until it locks. After installing the RaceChip B connection, you can go ahead and reassemble the car. This includes the air intake, the turbo inlet pipe, as well as the intercooler and throttle body. Now, one of the last things to do before we actually finish the installation here is to reinstall the ECU. We went ahead and put the ECU back together as one unit, including both snaps on the sides, and we're simply going to drop this straight in. Finally, we're going to install the A connection for the turbo boost pressure sensor. Again, this was the very first sensor removed on the side of the intercooler. We're going to take the RaceChip male side, stick it directly into the sensor, press down the gray tab until it snaps. And the last and final connection will be the male side of the OEM sensor to our female side of our harness. Make sure you click to snap and that the back tab is snapped. Also make sure that the snap is the opposite direction of the mounting tab. After the A and B connections have been inserted using the RaceChip, let's now reconnect the battery. As soon as you put the negative terminal back on, a green light on the RS should glow, or if it's the GTS, you'll actually have the LED screen light up. After you see the light on the RaceChip or the LED screen light up, go ahead and get inside your car by grabbing your keys, unlock the doors, and start the ignition. Let it run for about a minute or two and make sure there's no check engine lights. After you've turned the car off, made sure there's no check engine lights, let's go back underneath the hood, recheck all your connections to make sure there's no fluid leaking from the water to air intercooler and that all the connections are still secure. Now we're going to mount the RaceChip. We found a good spot that's away from moisture, any hot or moving parts. We're going to go right here behind the driver's side headlight. Since this does have the app, we're going to go ahead and mount it out of the way since you don't need to use the RaceChip itself to adjust the driving modes. And the last thing we do before we finish up the installation is actually mount these extra lines out of the way. Same thing as the RaceChip, away from any hot or moving parts. If you're going to go ahead and zip tie any of these existing lines, make sure you don't go too tight to pinch any of the fluids, liquids, or electrical wires that might be inside. So now that we've routed the RaceChip and wiring harness away from any of the hot or moving parts and used a couple of zip ties to secure the RaceChip and the wires, we're going to go ahead and just cut off the excess with a couple of pair of snips. Home stretch here, we're just going to put the battery cover back on, put the back secure, make sure it's perfect, and then use the two snaps in the front. Last and final step here is to go ahead and re-put on the plastic engine cover. Make sure just to push down each corner gently and it should snap right back into place. Start in the default setting of the RaceChip for the first time you test drive the car. If everything works great, you can then move the RaceChip to the next level up. Be aware that the car needs some time to adapt before releasing the full performance upgrade. Now, get out, drive, and enjoy your RaceChip.